So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today for this webinar. And we're going to talk about suicidal thoughts and how to help your loved ones who are suffering with all this. Now, suicide ideation can occur when a person feels that they are no longer able to cope with an overwhelming situation. This could stem from financial problems, the death of a loved one, the end of a relationship, and of course, health conditions and more. Some other common situations or life events that might also cause suicidal thoughts include grief, sexual abuse, financial problems, remorse, rejection, and unemployment. Now, many people experience thoughts of suicide at some point in their lives. And I'm just going to give everyone the statistics of lately that which I've got, which show that females comprises 83.5% of 1,008 suicide cases reported 2019 to May 2021 in Malaysia. More than half of those total deaths by suicide were victims aged 15 to 18. And this is actually quite alarming. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce our honorable speaker with this webinar, Dr. Edward Chan, a PhD holder in psychology and completed Master of Science in Learning and Master in Nutritional Medicine, Bachelor of Science, Honor in Psychology and Postgraduate Diploma in Corporate Psychology. He is also the principal consultant at PsyCorp, a center for corporate psychology, a board-certified corporate therapist with the Malaysian Association of Psychotherapy and International Society for Psychotherapy, Counselling and Psychiatry Fellow of the World Council for Psychotherapy. Apart from all this astounding educations and professional background, Dr. Edward is also an invited speaker for the 9th World Congress for Psychotherapy for the year of 2020. He's a keynote speaker for the 4th International Psychotherapy, Counselling and Psychiatry Conference 2020 and invited speaker for the 34th European Psychiatry Conference on Schema therapy. And not to forget that Dr. Edward has also done his remarkable contributions to the world through his writing. He is also the author of several books like Dancing with Crocodile, Key Strategy of Corporate Psychology, and Love It's Never Enough. Apart from all that, multiply of his work has been published in the Journal of Cognitive Therapy and Research, Journal of Reattached Therapy and Developmental Diversities, International Journal of Psychiatry, and he is also an accredited reattached therapist. So, Dr. Edward, thank you for trusting me to host this webinar today.
You're most welcome, and from our past sessions, it has always been very interactive and generative. And I'm sure today will also be similarly so.
Right. Yeah, before we begin, this is how I will usually do it. So for the first half an hour, we're gonna understand about the symptoms, the causes, and then the next half an hour, we're gonna maybe talk about the treatment plan and how we can help our loved ones to cope with it. So, doctor, it's actually quite alarming to see the statistics just now by saying that more than half of the total death by suicide were victims aged 15 to 18. What do you have to say with this?
Yeah, certainly the younger people are more vulnerable, right, towards suicide than older people, right? There's a life stage factor here, that definitely. And that is because simply because older folks have more life skills learned, you know, in the years, hopefully. I mean, not all, but in general, as we get older, we will learn, have more experience, and we have maybe gone through the different pandemic before, right? So this is like not the first time. So, you know, some of them even gone through like, you know, Second World War or something. then so they really have experienced a lot of difficulties before, and so that would help them maybe to develop further skills that might be not available to younger folks. So that could be one of the reasons. Right?
So what are the experience, or how could they experience suicidal thoughts? The symptoms, what do we look out to when seeing our loved ones? They might look totally normal. It's like when we talk about depression is just not about a face that's sad and all that. Depression, some people can actually hide it very, very well, and they can function.
Yeah, so there are the various risk factors, right? Of course, suicide suicidality is one of the symptom for depression, right? I mean, we have quite a number of symptoms, so it's not what you consider essential symptom, and we also have ways of determining the severity of the suicide risk, right?
Okay.
I mean, just having a suicidal thought alone does not mean that you are in a severe risk, for example. But if you start to have a plan, install, develop, and hatch, then the risk will be higher, right? So we have instrument and experience as psychologists to assess this risk, right? So we need to look at a number of factors, really. The depression is only one of the factors.
One of them.
Indeed, yes.
Now, since that our webinar has always been interactive, now Jolene says that recently my son's classmate, age 15, suicide too, and it's too shocking. So Jolene, would you like to share this experience when you heard the news, or if you have any information that you can share with our viewers that are watching right now? Would you like to?
Hi, Joanne. Hi, Dr. Emmett. Yeah, sorry.
Hi, Jolene.
Because I'm driving, it's not really appropriate to turn on my camera because my look also very messy.
So be safe,
Okay.
be safe, yeah, be safe.
Okay, yeah. So actually, it's shocking to me when my son, he told me that his friend, the school announced that his friends passed away, suicide, jump off the building, but we don't know the root cause why the boy suicide. But they also, for me, is concerned about my son because they are quite close. So
yes,
I didn't know the root cause, but I can see my son is very down and sad. It actually also traumatized the classmate as well. Everybody is like, what is going on? And then the school pay respect. They have the assembly to pay respect to the.
Well, I would Jolene, I would since you're in the mental health profession, I would and the school, I would suggest to them to have a session, by an expert like ourselves to do what we call the critical incident debriefing, right? So this will be an opportunity for those affected, like classmates, to help them process their emotions and feelings. Otherwise, unprocessed is going to fester and it might turn into depression and other vulnerability and other risks, right? So that would be a good idea to propose that to them. And we have been to other schools before. There was once a school where, and it was just an accident, not even a suicide. One of the student was struck dead, by lightning in the middle of a sports day, right? And so we had to go in and talk to the classmates. So any of death or the near-death experience can be traumatic to those who are related and can lead to something called post-traumatic stress disorder, right? Either you directly witness that or you are close to someone who have pass away or experience such near-death, events.
Yeah, I do agree, because apart from my son, I myself also get traumatized by that incident, because it's just
So
shocking to me. It's so young.
for your son, I would since you are again have this knowledge and skills, and you have been one of IPC graduate students. You learn about art therapy before, and so I would create this opportunity, have a conversation or processing, get him to, maybe if he is not able to talk about his feelings, to draw something out, so you want to get to his meaning about the events, what does it mean for him, right? So it is an opportunity, and maybe even a learning opportunity, right, for you to open up a space with your son, about this traumatic event, I'm sure, so that he will not carry that burden, right?
Yeah. Yes. Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Jolene, for sharing. If you have your own personal experience, or if you have any friends that you don't know how to cope with, you can always share it with us in this webinar. We'll try to answer all your questions. Now, Doctor, speaking about causes, why it's like everyone is in a pandemic now, right? Most of us might be feeling quite emotional with things that we can't go out and all that. Why is that the same situation, but given to two different individual, they would have different path of choosing the thoughts of, one could be like, oh, it's okay, it's a pandemic, I don't have a job, I have kids to raise and all that, but they don't choose to end their life. But why some chooses the extreme way?
Well, yeah, so there are the different risk factors, right? We mentioned just now age, life stages is one of the factor, and there are also the diseases, right? Like those who have post-traumatic stress already, right? Trauma would be at a higher risk, right? You mentioned women might be at a higher risk, although there are slightly different research on that. There are higher risk for women trying to commit suicide, but men are normally more successful, right? So
how come, or what makes you say that women have more suicidal thoughts, but it's more successful in the male rates? How is that?
Because we use more violent, definite methods, like jump off a building, right? Whereas women
the method that they choose.
Yeah, so the methods we choose are more successful than the female, which might have further impact. You might feel even more depressed because you can't even be successful in committing suicide, right? And of course, previous attempts would be a risk factor as well, right? So if you have, so it all, and one big risk factor, of course, is your, as you know, your what we call your psychological schema, right? These are programs, a psychological program blueprints that we all develop from young. So a number of them, like pessimism, is a program. You're not born with a pessimism program. And when you're born, we are all wanting to be loved and loved. But as within a few years of age, then we learn about various things. Depending on our parents and caregiver, right? And then we start either to have this pessimism program and start to interpret the world as being hopeless and pessimistic or not, and the other one is vulnerability to harm. How do we interpret the world? Is it like on the whole quite a safe place, or or it is pretty dangerous place. So this couple of Schema and others, can also be a big factor in determining how we interpret, But this is a very valuable topic for us to have, because a lot of mental health professionals even avoid or being too cautious, right, to take on this topic with their clients, right, because there's this fear that or fear of taking responsibility.
Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Now, doctor, you mentioned about higher risk. So I would say that it's actually quite common that people suffer from borderline personality disorder, and there's actually one trait in them is the self-harm. That if you're gonna leave me, I'm going to maybe cut myself. It doesn't mean that they want to do it, but it's the trait that makes them so vulnerable that if you don't pick up or what, I'm just gonna do something on myself. So if that is successful, do you think that it's just the drama went out of hand?
Well, in fact, you're right. In research for survivor of suicide, right? So those have attempted but survive. Most of them would tell you that they actually did not intend, right, to do it. Right, but of course so that's why we need to have this conversation, right? And the therapist himself or herself need also to be clear, right, about their own position and view. I mean, we all come from different background, different culture, different religious beliefs, and
watching too much movie with all those.
Well, yeah, I mean, like legally, for example, in Malaysia, suicide is a crime, right?
It's a crime. Yeah. If it's not successful, I know this very well. I know this very well.
So, right. So that itself might be prohibitive, to some therapists to have this conversation, that they don't want to be like. What you call it, to be a conspirator, in a crime, be prosecuted, right?
Sometimes I just feel, because I actually have a meeting session with one of the police officers a couple of months back. I actually talked about this with him. I said, it's actually a crime in the penal code that attempt suicide, if it's not successful, you got to go to jail. Sometimes people also can be very, they have the empathy to look into cases. It's like, they already gone through an emotional state and you still want to put them in jail. Yes. You're just going to push them into much more deeper, they're going to come out, they're going to attempt again,
Indeed. So there are, many strategies, right? Like hospitalizing patients, putting them in jail. These might not be the best approach. So we need to look at ourselves, our position, and be able to stand apart from that, and have the space to help our patients, and have this conversation, and not impose our own position and fear and anxiety, about death and life onto our patient.
Okay. All right. So we have Nadia here saying that I overcome my second depression ever since I came back from Langkawi. First was in 2008. I'm speechless throughout my super obstacles life. I'm planning to either leave this world or country, because there's no meaning for me to let this life in Malaysia anymore. So what she's saying is she recently received this message from a friend who wants to end their life again. So how could she deal with it as a friend? And okay, we get this part done first, because I understand that she have two friends that is going to her which have suicidal thoughts. So the first part, doctor.
Right. So, well, first of all, we need to put put out some disclaimer here. All right, having talk about legality and all that. Right, this portal, this webinar is not a substitute for for those wanting consultation, professional consultation.
Okay.
We would suggest and recommend all those who have these issues to seek proper professional consultation, right? It is just some conversation that can be helpful to.
Yeah, because I believe is that not everyone can handle situations like this. It's like, what if I say something wrong? What if I don't say? Sometimes they feel that they are being put in a position that I understand that you come to me, that you trust me, but as a friend, I know that you're suffering, but I don't know what to do. I don't know if I'm the right person to help.
Yeah, and of course, we have our professional certification courses at the International Psychology Center to train those who are interested to help, right, professionally. But having said that, if you have someone approaching you, then it will be valuable normally to have open up a space, right? Because I know that the mention of suicide, has a lot of meaning, right? So what does it mean for this person, right? That he or she finds living in Malaysia to be pretty depressing, for various reason, right? So this is like a maybe a temporary situation, therefore, right?
Okay.
It's not like life per se is hopeless, right? It's just this temporary situation. It's like the sun is there, but at the moment we have a thick layer of dark clouds that is blocking it, but we still know that the sun is there, right? So we need to have this or this person need to have this conversation with a friend and get to know the meaning that this statement has for the person, rather than avoiding it, right? So if you avoid it, then those thoughts would fester and emotions would fester and things might become worse, right, for the friend. So you need to learn how to open up a space to have a safe conversation without judgment, all right, with interest, without judgment, to hear what is the meaning, right, for this person to make these statements, right? To get to know more, and just by sharing, it will lighten the pain.
So it's like when they come to you, you ask them like, what does it mean for you when you do this? What does it mean for you?
Yeah,
so
to have
this thought, to have this
exactly, and it's that you feel very lonely,
the real reason, the real factor.
So
it's just not about as simple as it's just I'm planning to either live this world or country because there's no meaning for me. So you just gotta say, what does it mean for you when you say that?
Yes, exactly. The meaning of it, and maybe it is tied to previous meaning, previous events. It is like the same thing happened over again for me, like how it was before.
It's like a life trap if it's
right.
It's like a life trap. It's like it happens over and over again until I don't know how to break the circle.
Indeed.
Yep. Now we move on to the second part. I have another friend that went back to Japan for 2 months, and due to his mom departure, so followed by the 14 days quarantine, and now leads him into depression. Why this happened?
Well, it again, we can't give a professional consultation because we don't know about this person, right? So a lot of factors, some of which we talk about, play into the situation. Even a simple thing like personality would play into a situation. Like we know the pandemic. The
so one is the situation, one is the personality.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're an extrovert person, 14 days quarantine is going to be much more stressful to you than if you're an introvert, right? You can recharge. You welcome the time to to be by yourself. But for those who are used to get the energy from others, it will be like hell for them, right? So yeah, so that all these risk factors that we need to take into account when we do a proper assessment, right?
Right.
Person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. What if someone just keep refusing? Like, what's it gonna do? Okay, I'm just gonna give you an example, right? I'm just gonna act it out. Like, okay, yeah, I have suicidal thoughts. What gives? What's gonna change? It's all in their world is just all negativity. So as a friend, we'll be on the phone. Okay, so we just do we do this or like
Yes. So it would depends on what we mentioned about the program, the schema. So if they have like a pessimism schema, then they'll always see the glass as half full.
Okay.
Right. Yeah. Then that will be even more at risk than someone who don't have this program, right? And having said that, all these programs can be changed, of course, which is why we have psychotherapy and counseling, right? We can change all these help the person
to reprogram.
Exactly, to reprogram. First of all, we need to understand the program and then help them to reprogram, right? So all this is pretty doable, right? Yeah.
Right. Is there anyone still have any questions to ask? You can actually type in your questions, or you can actually unmute yourself.
Joanne, this is Andy, actually. I got a question for the doctor.
Yeah, go ahead.
Doctor, so basically, I was part of a project team recently, and there was one lady on the team who, was always quite upbeat. She was very enthusiastic and hardworking, all the rest of it. But then I could hear that her voice and her mood started to kind of go downhill a little bit. All of us were working really hard. The project was pretty demanding and, blah, blah. I was off for a couple of weeks. And when I got back, I found out that she'd taken her own life. She was Malaysian, and I don't know her age, but she was probably, I guess, in her 30s or so. And the whole team were really, really shocked. It took a few days for people to kind of get back into the swing of things. But I got into this to basically try and help people. And I was wondering, how do we pick up on these signs? Because a bit to, Jolene's point earlier, it's very hard sometimes to recognize when people are at that point where they'd even think about doing something like that. And where do we know when to interject, or how should we interject if we suspect that?
Yeah, so if you need to look out for for signs, right? And if you find that there's a certain of these signs, then you need to create a space for them to talk about like we mentioned the meaning of these issues, and create a safe climate. If you do know the person well, right? And otherwise try to get them to see someone who would be able to provide that space for them. Sometimes people do feel safer talking to strangers, and professionals. So it depends, but to have the feeling that there's someone that care, right? About your situation itself can be can make a big difference, right? For this person, rather than them carrying the burden alone. So we don't know what is the burden that this person, your team member, carried, right? That make her feel taking her own life was the solution, right?
Yeah, I don't know what it was. Apparently she posted on Facebook, so I think there was some feedback, but from what I understand, she was alone here in Malaysia.
Yeah. So without knowing that, but if you do know of such a person, then and you pick up some sign, then you can reach out and try to create some space for them to open up if you're in that position. Would be a good thing to do, to find out what is the meaning, because you never know, right? How serious it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
No worries.
Doctor, I have a questions for you. This has been actually quite really quite curious about people who keep calling you and say, I want to die, I want to die, I want to die. And then versus those which just didn't say anything at all, because they just do it. They just do it without, that, oh, I'm gonna,
yeah. So that is why we need to know the meaning. It could unfortunately be a figure of speech, right? To some.
Why people do that? Why people do that? Like, call you 3 times a day, 3 times a week, and they say, but they don't do it. But we cannot take away the possibility of they're not gonna do it, right? But it gets overwhelmed for us as well, because it's repeat and repeat.
Right. Yeah, of course. If this has been something like a cry wolf, then it can be can be a bit tiresome, right? Yeah. So you need to if you know the person, then you need to see whether you can work out the meaning of it.
Okay.
For the person, is it but as far as possible, we want to take it seriously, especially if there have been previous attempts, right?
Every time when they do that.
Yeah, so we need to look at the situation, whether there are other risk factors, right? Like other diseases like depression, borderline, there are certain psychological disorders.
Okay. So I see one question here. When a person is having, since you talk about depression, right? So there's a question about, when a person having depression, will they also think of committing suicide?
Well, it's not an essential part. It is part of the symptom, right?
It's part of the symptom, but it's not.
Yeah, not
necessary.
Because, there are many symptoms of depression, like not being able to sleep well, losing interest in things, right? So losing interest in life would can be part of that, right? So it depends on other things, but it certainly would be part of the risk factor, if you have the depression, and there are different severity, right?
There are levels of depression, whether you are mild, moderate, borderline, and
yes, and ironically, suicide risk can be higher for those coming out of depression.
Coming out.
Yeah, so you can drop rock bottom, and you don't even have the resources to commit suicide. But as you are recovering, then you start developing your energy and your motivation to take your own life. So that is
how is that? No, that's Wow, that's
ironic.
that's something new to me. That's something new to me.
Mm.
Okay. How is that so?
Well, I mean, imagine you're so depressed, you're rock bottom, you can't even have enough energy to take
Right.
your own life, right? But as you getting recovering back, getting your energy or your faculty or your planning, and then you might be able to put together a plan to.
Wow.
So.
Wow, that is something very new. That's something quite shocking to me personally to hear.
But obviously, the person is still depressed, right?
It's the energy level, like you say.
Yeah. But having said that, suicide is not inevitably linked with depression also. All right. So that, which is why in certain countries it is euthanasia is legal, right? So it is a choice. So we need to. I mean, we have mentioned that it is illegal in Malaysia. So.
You mean the one that you can take the injection? Are you talking about?
Indeed, it is.
Just for your information, it's very expensive to do so in Switzerland.
Well, if you have the resources, and it is so it can it doesn't need to be an act of depression per se, right? So which is why getting to the meaning is important.
Right. Okay. Now, Jolene says that I also noticed cyberbullying led to some people to suicide. How do we overcome this issue? Cyberbullying. Yeah.
So that is something that is quite more rampant these days, and it's more an issue. That there are gender differences here. They're more an issue for girls than boys, right?
Yes.
So it again, the life stage is important, right? So another reason why older folks are less susceptible to suicide is because we learn to be more selective with who we hang out with our friends. Whereas you're like a teenager, you are you're hooked to all the social media and
you want to feel belong.
Exactly. Every you are in all the groups, and of course there is totally beyond your control what others' opinion of you.
I think it's just not about teens. Even myself at this age, I find it that if I'm gonna post something out there, if I don't get a certain amount of likes, I might as well delete it. That's just the perception nowadays.
Yes,
the peer pressure of society.
And on that topic, right? Social media does, in fact, contribute towards depression, and I'm sure.
Because being as
as well.
Because it pays the bill now. Things are different. Being as a social media influencer, it pays the bill.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the next question is: I felt those quiet ones are more dangerous. To those who complain that they want to suicide, might just want attention. So that's the one that I speak about just now. The one that who just do the talking, mostly. And
right.
Is it that the quiet one are the most dangerous ones? The one that
is hard to say, but if you're quiet, you can be what we call the emotionally inhibited. All right. So we do have a emotional inhibition schema, right? When you're young, you learn and to keep your emotions and things to yourself, because the caregivers are not interested, or you get told to keep it to yourself. So as you keep all these dark thoughts, and then emotions, then it will fester, right? So emotions are not to be feared, you know, even the so-called negative emotions or thoughts, you know, that will change, and then it's an opportunity for them to be processed, and once processed, they will change, right? So as friends and therapists, we need to provide this safe space for those that we know to help them process these emotions.
Okay.
Right?
You are actually frozen, doctor. The camera, your video is actually frozen. Would you want to try to on it and off it again, just to see if it works?
How about now?
Okay, right. You're back to normal. You're back to normal. I didn't want to cut you off when you answer. Okay, now the next question's from Yuting. Yuting asked that a suicide thought came out straight away from an event, or it hatched day by day?
Well, it again goes back to these earlier events, right? If you have various traumatic early life events, then it's all re-triggering those events, right? So it can be part of a network, you know, what we call a domino effect, right? Of earlier dominoes. Yeah. So if or you don't have like three earlier events that are traumatic and all, and you grew up to be fairly emotionally safe, and you have quite a healthy, what we call a healthy adult program, right? Then would be unlikely that you know, one event alone can be triggering enough to cause a suicide attempt, right?
Okay.
Yeah, you know, other things being equal, you don't have other illnesses, you know. So we need to look at so there are really three factors, right? The stressors in your life, your support system,
Okay.
right? Yeah, and your own learned coping mechanism,
Okay.
right? Which would include your psychological programs. So if you're like living alone or by yourself, then you are at greater risk, definitely, right? Or even you are living with someone, you know, who is like so negative, then you are so negative because you're not getting the support, you know.
Yeah, it's already being so overwhelming, but coming to you and asking you for help, and all you say to me is, you know, in Chinese, we always have this thing that we say 生舊叉燒好過生你啊, you know,
yeah.
instead of giving
So
you
which is why in this pandemic we have more and more companies, you know, coming to us to for support system, right? So that they put in place an official support system that we provide them with a 24/7 hotline. You know, this is something called EAP, Employee Assistance Program, that a lot of companies start to adopt, right, to mitigate the risk.
Okay.
Yeah.
Doctor, I have a question for you. With your knowledge and with all your experience, I really want to know this. People who have suicidal thoughts that comes to you to seek help, which one is more relationship problem, money problem, family problem, or illness? Which is at the top of the chart?
I would say relationship is a big one, right?
Relationship. How so? Why?
Well, because I know it goes back to our meaning of life, right? And for that matter, you know, the human being are the only animal that is capable of committing suicide, right? So other animals, you know, they don't eat and things. It's because of some infection, but we are the only one that can like deliberately end our own life. And that simply is because we need meaning to live, What
Okay,
is the
so losing
meaning?
someone.
What is the meaning and purpose of our life, right? I mean, of course, we do need someone to have a meaning of life, and there are people who are quite happy, you know, having their own bachelor life without anyone, and just you know, and enjoying life. But for many, having someone in your life add tremendously to those meaning, right? Which is why relationship break up, you know, especially if you have a schema, a program called abandonment, right? So when your spouse leave you, you know, for someone else, even, you know, that is even worse than someone dying, right? At least if your spouse died, you know, that's the end. But if they leave you for someone else, that is like, you know, they're still alive, but they don't want you, you know, it's you per se that's you know, they don't want, then you feel so abandoned that and so suicide for many is a way of avoiding emotional pain, right? So the pain of being abandoned or being betrayed is so tremendous that many of us
they didn't want to die, they just want the pain to end.
Exactly. And so suicide at the end of the day can be an avoidance strategy.
Okay.
Right? It's an avoidance of
okay.
pain.
It's so severe, right? It's like they say that I think I read something that it says that a broken heart is like equivalent to having a heart attack, the pain meter level. Is that true?
Well, yeah. I mean, in terms of pain, right? So pain can be physical, can be emotional, and we are, you know, the one of the very few creatures that can experience that. All right. Yeah.
Now, what are the treatment plans that we can talk about now? Is there any best treatment plan for people who have suicidal thoughts? Is it CBT? Is it schema therapy? Is it art therapy?
We practice something called holistic medicine, right? Okay. Or functional medicine. So we need to look at the person, you know, as a whole. So we haven't talked much about the physical component, right? Which is mainly chemicals in our brain, hormones, you know, neurotransmitters. So there's a chemical in our brain called serotonin, and we have a way of measuring that, you know, in urine tests. So these are directly correlated with depression, right? And also suicide when your serotonin level is very low, you know, and which is also correlated with your stress hormone cortisol being very high. So all these can be treated, right? Of course, there are drug treatment like the SSRIs, you know, there are also more natural treatment as well to increase this serotonin level naturally. So there is a possibility of combining both the physical and of course the psychological treatment that you mentioned. You know, CBT has a lot of evidence for that, but also the expressive therapy, you know, giving an avenue for a patient to process their emotion. All right, we have a schema therapy to restrict all those early the risk schemas. So yes, there are a lot of course we have EMDR, you know, we have an EMDR workshop coming up. This are for people to like heal from their past trauma.
Can you explain a little bit more about EMDR? I've heard of it, but I've not really done much research on this theory.
Right. So this is discovered by the a psychologist called Shapiro. She was like walking by the beach. You know, she was diagnosed with cancer, and for some reason she was like flickering her eyes, and then she found that attempt has actually make her feel much better about her diagnosis. So the signs, and of course in those days it was very new, right? But now we have so much science behind it.
Right.
It is due to the fact that the working memory, right, has a limited capacity. So just by doing a process of moving your eyes, we are able to if you hold those past traumatic memory at the same time, you will be able to fade away those painful early traumatic memory, right? It's like erasing traumatic memory and thereby scripting your schema, right?
Okay.
So it's not only by the way, it's not only a traumatic memory, it could be happy memory as well. So it doesn't matter. So what you don't want is to hold on to your joyous memory, and it will suck out those from you too, right? But so in an experienced EMDR practitioner,
that sounds like a good reprogramming.
Yes, it is. But you need to be careful what you pre-program, right?
Right.
Mm.
Okay, we are almost coming to an end. Like we have another 10 more minutes. Is there anyone else? Do you have any questions you want to ask? You can always unmute yourself and ask questions. Also, you can type it out. Now, Doctor, just to recap everything, when someone comes to you, always create a safe space for them.
Yes, indeed.
Ask them about what does it mean for you when you say you want to do this, self-harm or thinking or planning.
Yeah, right. Mm.
And come to a point whereby you think you cannot, then pick the person to go to a professional. People like Dr. Edward.
Well, yeah, our team in the International Psychology Center, we are trained, to do suicide assessment and risk. And
right. I always stress this. I always stress it out to people. When people tell me that I have depression, I have anxiety, I say, hold up. Don't self-diagnose. Go to someone who can help you to come up with an assessment. That it's very important, because I don't want people to have the perception that, because it's a trend. It's a trend nowadays that on social media saying that I have depression, I have anxiety, but maybe you don't. What do you say to that?
Yes, that is true, right? And like, for example, a lot of people think, feeling sad is means that you have depression. But sadness is a very important and useful emotion, right? In fact, in psychotherapy, we don't believe that there are negative emotions. All emotions are valuable, including sadness.
Of course.
Yeah. So any emotion just means it need to be processed. You need to have that space, and if you can process it with someone, it will be easier, right? But to do that, we need to know how to do that with the person, right?
I understand this one thing is that when a person come to you and say they want to kill themselves or what, we can't just tell them that you are going to be okay, you will be fine, go slip it off, go have a drink, you will feel fine tomorrow.
Then they don't feel understood, right? If you do that,
you don't feel understood when you say that.
Yeah, right. They need to know that how they feel, right? If you tell them, just slip it off, it's like not validating. You're not validating my pain. I wish it can be so.
Okay. So when they come to you, always give them the safe space, and then to validate them.
Yes, indeed.
Okay,
indeed.
And then you can't then go to IPC. If you don't know where to find us, you can always Google it, and you can find us at www.International Psychology Center. If you still don't know, you can contact me. I can bring you there myself.
or you can learn, if you're interested in this field, to help others to have good karma. You can get trained. We need more people, to be professionally trained you know, to
Doctor,
help
can I ask
rising pandemic. Yes, Andy, who is one of
so,
our trained graduates in psychotherapy, right?
I was going to ask, Doctor, as counselors, you know, when you empathize and when you validate and when you listen to people when they tell their stories, how do you protect yourself from not getting, you know, affected yourself? Because there must be cases where it will affect you.
Yes, which is why as a therapist yourself, you should also get not only supervise, you know, to have a supervisor, but also get therapy yourself, so that you know how to distinguish what is your own issues and separate it from your patients or clients' issues, right? So those are two things in the Malaysian Association for Psychotherapy. Having supervision is essential part of the renewal of your license, right? But you know, we haven't like enforced needing, you know, having your own therapy as well, and in many other countries they need that as well in order for you to do.
I believe in a therapist. Myself, I also need a therapist.
Yes.
Because we are all human. We are bound to have our own. Sometimes things just get too familiar to us that we don't see it ourselves.
Yeah, so we need to separate, you know, in order to answer Andy's question. We need to be aware what is our issue and to be able to separate from our patients' issues, right? So that we are not then triggered. So there is something called counter transference, you know, where we transfer our patient issues onto ourselves, right? Like you meet someone, you know, even some patient, you feel like you don't know why you feel like more irritated, you know, or sad, right? So these are all counter transference issues, which we will train you, you know, and in therapy to be able to distinguish and not let it affect, you know, your session with your patient.
Right. Yeah. Is there anyone else you still want to ask any questions? Last questions. If no, then Doctor, would you like to top up anything that I missed out that is important?
Well, I believe personally, you know, all life worth saving, all lives are valuable, right? But that is just my personal opinion. Yeah. And at the same time, I need to respect others' opinion, you know, and be able to create that, you know, true empathy is where you are able to stand, right, with the other person and without judgment. So that the space is important, you know, this safe
the
space.
Giving them the trust.
Without imposing our own judgment and opinion, right? Yeah.
Okay. I think that's all the time we have for today. If there's no more questions, and we made it quite clear today, I hope this session would really help you and your loved ones. If you still have no idea, please do contact IPC. If you don't know how to, you can always contact me, or Dr. Edward is easy to find on social media as well. Am I right?
Yes, indeed.
All right, so
we are in Facebook and LinkedIn, and
Right. So we'll come up with the next topic, and hope to see everyone on the next webinar. Thank you so much, Doctor, for spending your time for this webinar. I think it's a very, very important topic to speak about.
Sure. Well, thank you for having this conversation, Joanne.
Right. Okay, so I'll maybe see you on the next webinar then. Right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining, and have a good evening ahead.
Bye-bye.